All right, to get started in earnest on assignment 3, we need to think about what content, what subject matter we want to transform, and how we can show that most clearly in 9 keyframes, 9 square keyframes. So we start with that sketch. It's going to look like this. So in this instance, I was taking the emoji I made for one class and transforming it into the emoji I made for another class. It's the dog from Johnny Quest into Bucky the Siamese cat from Get Fuzzy. And so you know where you want to end, you know where you want to start, but the transformation has to go through a middle phase, right? Otherwise, it's just a swap. So this one, the dog starts getting really hot, bursts into flames, and then through the charred remains kind of reveals the cat. This is what the storyboard would look like. The reason we do it in a 9-frame storyboard is because you want to think of what is the lead character. Character is the thing that the audience experiences the story through. So if the story is one of transformation, maybe it's the thing that transforms, as this is the case. The character is the central subject matter that transforms. Or maybe the character is the thing we experience the transformation through. So let's say that the environment transforms and the character is the thing that experiences what that's like, right? So let's say that we use a dog all the way through, but it goes from day to night. And then the dog kind of realizes it goes from day to night. That's more interesting generally for a viewer than just showing a setting changing, right? So we want to think in terms of 3 things when we're doing storyboarding. We want to think of what are we telling the story through? So character. Character does not need to be a living thing. You could tell the story through a paper clip. I did this as a photo series once. Kind of a paper clip on a desk. You don't need to animate the paper clip. You don't need to give it eyes or arms. But you can just show that that paper clip is always staying in the same place while the desk around it gets dirtier and messier and dustier and something spills, right? And you're understanding that it's always the same space because we're seeing this paper clip, even though everything around it's changing, right? So that's a way character can be used in a non-figurative way. And then, of course, setting is whatever the place is. Now, this is a nice example because even though the background is blank, the setting where you would have a dog combust into flames is something the audience assumes, right? So is the dog inside or outside? Is it winter or summer? Like all of those things can be assumed based on whatever information you do give the audience. I always think of Jim Davis doing Garfield cartoons. And all Jim Davis does and his studio does to show that it's an interior is just draw a horizontal line. And that means it's like a counter, right? And then Garfield's inside. And all they do to show that Garfield's outside is they put like a scarf on Garfield, right? That kind of thing. And then we just assume. And then he gets hit by a snowball and we realize, oh yeah, I was right. He's outside and it's winter. That kind of thing. So it doesn't take much to play with character and setting, but you want to think about it. And then what is the trick to animation, right? To time-based media? It's the illusion of time passing. So there's multiple ways you can show the illusion of time passing. One way is to actually use time, what's called time-based media. So this is showing it at about 3 frames per second. It's showing a new image each time, right? These are 9 of those images. And that's how we get the sense that the dog is like panting up and down and eventually changing color and then eventually burning up, right? And revealing the cat. And then it just reverses itself. So this is time-based media where the artist controls how long the viewer sees the thing, right? You can control all the timing. You control how long it takes to get up to something. But there are other ways to show illusion of time passing, and storyboarding is one of those. So when you storyboard, you make little boxes. We're going to use a square format because it's kind of the most universal to learn with. It's good for social media. It's good for web media. And we're going to put gutters between them. If you're thinking this is a comic book, you have a border around it and you have gutters in between the panels. But each time your eye passes from one storyboard frame to the next, these are called keyframes, we're passing over time, right? So you can decide how much time passes as you go between your keyframes. Maybe it's like a split second, kind of like what this is. Maybe it's like 3 months, right? And I'm going to show this dog aging. And it's going to be really sad at the end because it's going to be like a dead dog. Does that make sense? So we have control of time. This is the illusion of time passing through what's called sequential paneling, right? Just like a comic book does. This, in animation, all animation is the illusion of time passing through sequential imaging, where we just, like a flip book or a slideshow, control how long we see each image and how quickly we show them. So these are the 3 components we're going to be creating for this. We start with our storyboard sketch today. We definitely want to have that nailed down today. And I have our ambitions up on the board for our first work day. We want to work up the first 3 keyframes, right? And then when we've done the first 3 keyframes and anything in between them we need, then we're going to run our first animation test. Because that will help us understand, am I using time in the way I want for the idea I have? Or am I being too nitpicky and it's going to go too slow? Or am I not getting to the idea fast enough? Or am I being too fast and I have time to put more in-betweens, more nuance into it? All of that we kind of test at the beginning. Animation's our final compositing project because it requires so much organization of pixels, right? And understanding it all. And it's more forgiving because our finished GIF animation is going to be 8 by 8 inches at 100 pixels per inch. So is that good enough for print? No. A single panel? No. Because do you ever see a printed animation? You do not, right? So it is designed for kind of a high-def screen, for just kind of ideal web portrayal. Now, for print, we're going to do it at 30 by 40 inches at 100 pixels per inch, which relates to a little bit larger than 8 by 10 by 300. So the thing that we'll print from this, if you wanted to print it for your portfolio, will be what's called the refined storyboard, which is when we're finished with our animation, we'll take 9 frames from it and tell it like our storyboard sketch, but hopefully in a way that looks more finished, like a comic book. And in an ideal world, if you were to really master this project, we would see the transformation really clearly in the animation, but we would also be able to tell the story through your keyframes, right? All right. So let's get on with it. So there is a mentorship presentation that some digital honors students did that I think is really helpful. I'm just going to put it here if you want to practice this at home and kind of get the basics of animation, because it uses all free resources. And back when we can use Photopea on campus, this is what I did with one of our sections. Now, Photopea has animation script in its coding, so you can code your layers with certain names and it will know to animate, but it's really complicated. So instead, it's using 2 freeware programs that are both browser-based. One is Photopea and the other is called EasyGIF.com Maker. There are a lot of free GIF makers, but that one gives you a lot of control of the timing. And what this basically shows is first how to draw your 9-frame storyboard. The only thing I don't like about these 9 frames is there's no gutter between them, right? Why do I like you to have space between them? It's so you can make little notes. Like here I'm introducing the character. Here the character's panting. Here the character has a worried expression. Here the character starts to sizzle. On and on and on. So it does not need to be very detailed. And you'll notice in this, of course, it's just stick figures. So that works as well. Now but you should be able to tell what the transformation is from your sketch. And sometimes you need commentary on it. But what's the story here? We have a character. They're winding up for a big punch. And then they punch and kind of fly Dragon Ball style. And they hit something. And it's not very impactful. So is that a transformation? No, that's just a big movement, right? And that's kind of like a setup gag. So then they throw their arm up and then put their arm down, and then this big transformation, like this big energy blast, erupts. So that's the idea. And it's kind of told like a joke, like a setup, and then you have the punchline, right? So they're going to show how you can take then just your storyboard, your rough storyboard sketch, and turn them into what's called an animatic. You line up all those 9 frames, and then you set the timing for them in GIFmaker, and then you can set, a rough animatic. And this kind of shows you those in sequence, all with the same timing. And then from there, you can understand, okay, what do I want to extend? How much emphasis and time do I want to give between certain panels of the keyframe? So this is with in-betweens, right? So you take a lot longer with that big moment, that big reveal. There's also a nice, just kind of a swiping movement as between poses. So this is the animatic. This is then what became kind of the test animation. Now this was a Digital 2 student working with their own characters and kind of hand drawing it, just like these students in their presentation, all they wanted to do was to show this character turning around. And yet it took a lot of frames to do that in a way they liked, right? And to hit a pose. So it's all about kind of planning and knowing where you want to go. But this can help you practice it through Photopea. So the first thing we're going to post is our storyboard sketch. We're going to try to get that posted today. And I did a really quick one just on the whiteboard at the end of last class, but I'm thinking I want more from it. So sometimes your first idea isn't your best idea, but I was thinking, I know I want to use my Skeletor emoji, with Halloween coming and everything. So I had the idea of, I'd put some eyeballs in it, I'd have the eyeballs look around a little, and then horns would grow, and then there'd be a big transformation, and it would turn into something really demonic looking. And I was basing it on this He-Man toy. Right. I thought, yeah, that's fine. But I'd like for there to be a little bit more humor in it. So I'm going to start something new, but inspirations are helpful, right? So there's obviously like the Skeletor kind of laughing. There's lots of memes of that. Here's a GIF of it. It doesn't take anything more than 2 panels to show Skeletor laughing. So that could be an easy kind of movement I might do. But then there's this, which is kind of, I know as a kid was my favorite part of the old He-Man cartoon, was when his cat turns into this bigger tiger version, right? So this kind of transformation. Now, if you look at this, I love 80s animation because it's cheap, right? But effective. It's emotional. So what's the big transformation here? It's not much. He just grows a little bit in the same pose, and then his tail moves, right? And then it reveals when he has armor. And what's really selling it are all those effects in the background, right? But it is a transformation. So beginning is this, middle is that, end is this, right? So just little things. It's up to you. Yeah, you need a transformation. So you can have transformation of setting, or you can have transformation of character. Or you can have both, right? You could have your character bursting into flames and walking out as a skeleton while the background is getting stormy. And the reason he burst into flames is because it went from sunny to really stormy and lightning struck. And then he burst into flames, right? So that'd be a transformation of both. So that's what we got to figure out. So the warning is, and the reason I'm setting it up for so long, is you don't want to be too ambitious with your idea, right? This is a super simple idea, but it's done really effectively. So whatever you want to do, you want to be able to showcase that transformation in a way that's compelling. And it's not always showing every little thing. You don't need to grow the helmet around the head. You just have to play with what's most effective. So that